Hey everybody, it's Matt. Wrestling with Whiskey is back. Another episode of Straight Shooting rolling right to you. And this week, we have a very special guest, someone who only follows a certain number of people on Instagram, and he's having a crisis about this. Maybe we can help him figure it out. Probably have to rate this one simply on this intro alone on a mature rating. And hopefully we can, and he won't be upset at me if I make this my 6.9th favorite episode of this show ever. Ladies and gentlemen, the former Mojo Rowley, or just Mojo, or as I know him as Dean Mutati. Dean, what's going on, man? Welcome to the show.
My man, it's good to be having interactions with you that are positive and us not fighting in the ring all the time like the past decade.
No kidding. I'll never forget. And I'm going to start right off with the hot tea here. I'll never forget. And it was right after you started doing, as your finish, the running punch
I knew this was coming.
In the corner. You were trying to, and it went well for a couple times. And there was one day, and I don't remember if it was a house show or like on SmackDown. I remember sitting in the corner. I'm like, all right, here comes the gimmick, waiting for, ooh, and it just moved and hit me right in the ear. And I'm like, I don't know if I yelled it or not. I was like, fuck, and then just like fell down 1, 2, 3. But I was just like, oh my God. I'm like, of course it happened right here. It was so
the best
funny.
Part about that is that I used to pride myself on being able to do that move and not touching anybody with it. And I remember being in the locker room and somebody was worried about taking it. And I remember saying, don't worry, I don't even touch you with it. I've never touched anyone with it. And you were standing right behind me and you go, what was that? And bro, I turned around and I remembered blasting you. I was like, it's separated. So I'm sorry about that. So being on your show is the least I can do to make up for it.
No, it's all good. Hey, as they say, it's not ballet. You know what I mean? Like the shit happens. It's all good. It's all good. But man, no. How have you been doing, dude?
Dude, it's been great. I can't believe how busy I am. You know, like it's you know how it is with WWE. We're slammed all the time, traveling, but you know, we still do get those off days here and there. I thought when I, was not with the company anymore that it would take a while before I started filling my days up. But man, it's been quite the opposite. It's been slammed and it's been exciting. Just not having, that exclusivity and being able to do everything has just been so fun. And like, dude, we can literally do whatever we want and not have to ask permission for it.
I'm like, it's great. Yeah, even me just doing this little show here, I'm like, I couldn't do that if I was still there. And stuff like it is. And then like I've seen, we're going to talk about it a little bit more later. We're kind of cohabitating on some stuff together. So, but yeah, it is. It's wild. It's like this whole, it never feels great to get, released or whatever. But man, it's like, you have that moment of boom, and then you're like, oh, wait.
Yeah.
Like there's a little bit of that, like, oh, that and that and that. I can do that and that. And it's like, oh, sweet. Cool.
All of the things, bro. The silver lining is substantial.
And especially with, I think we're heading into a better time with, live events and convention and just things happening in showbiz and sport and everything kind of coming back with a vengeance. And so it's going to be, I think it's going to be a good fall, a good winter, a good next year. And so like, it's a good time to be free, baby.
You're right about that.
But yeah, as you all know, the format of the show, we're going to drink through some whiskeys. And I have a theme. I try to have a theme each time. And I'll reveal the theme at the end because it kind of gives things away. But yeah, so there's a little theme between all three bottles. So what we're gonna start off with an opening toast. So go ahead and pour sample A. Or did I label them 1, 2? I always forget. Did I label them 1, 2, 3 or ABC?
We got 1, 2, 3.
Okay, let's go 1. We go sample 1. And I'll have a
so here's the thing you probably remember about me. I'm not much of like a classy guy. I'm kind of just this rabid, this rabid party rocker. So I don't have any cool guy glasses like you do. So I got options. I either got like the Mojo cup, the ice shaker, or I got whatever this is. I don't know if this is for tea. This just kind of, Things show up at my house. I don't even know how they got here. Or
the green Solo cup.
Or we just do it Mojo style and just chug it straight from whatever it came in.
That's swaggle style. I tell everybody that. No, I would do that tea glass, because that's actually it's big, but it's kind of the similar thing. You want that rounded bottom. It kind of opens up at the top. It's that'll work. See, like this. So this is a traditional whiskey glass. Yeah, that's a Glencairn. It's designed for Scotch, but it works for almost any whiskey or spirit. The whole idea is that it's got a wide, rounded bottom, and then it tulips up towards the top, so it kind of funnels the aroma to you. So it gets oxygen in the bottom where it's got a ton of air, and then it funnels it to a thin point where you can nose it with more kind of amplification.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, see? Learning already.
I'm going to be learning more than your audience is on this one.
You damn right.
I'm the kind of guy that gets like the $1,000 drink and doesn't smell it, doesn't taste test it, just pounds it without appreciating it.
What was that? How expensive was that? I don't care. Whom.
Yeah,
we're gonna change that today, brother. We're gonna change that today. You're gonna be a snob like me by the end of all this. You're gonna be sitting back while everyone is at the pool party outside the Vegas hotel. You're gonna be sitting cross-legged back there. No, ladies, please. I need a moment. Cardamom and brown burnt sugar. Yes. And then, yeah, that's going to be the next
This is what I need to know, because an old fashioned is my favorite drink.
Okay.
However, I need to learn how to analyze it. I know what tastes good and what doesn't to me, but I can't really pick it apart unless it's smoked or something. That's the only thing I can tell.
Absolutely. Well, all right, go ahead and pour sample number 1 into the glass there, and we'll kind of walk.
Here we go.
Yes,
sample number 1.
Tiny sample bottles for the tiny piece.
Yeah, that's what she said.
So yeah, you won't even need much. Let it in. Yep. So I mean, that's a bigger glass, so you couldn't. Most people don't like swirling. Give it a little swirl just so it kind of coats the side of the glass, just a little one. Okay. And then when you go to smell it, kind of you can put your nose on the rim of the glass. Keep your mouth open. It'll help it from kicking you in the face so much with alcohol, and kind of just tell me what you smell. If it's straight alcohol, great. Is it sweet? Is it spicy? Is it thin? Is it rich and bold? Is it so on?
I think I smell a little bit of sweet in here.
Okay.
I mean, it smells
vanilla-y, caramelly.
Maybe vanilla more than caramel. Okay. Maybe a little whiskey forward. Maybe.
Well, it is whiskey.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be whiskey.
Some shots hit harder than others, you know?
True. So. Yeah, does this smell like really strong, or does this smell kind of like, oh, it's light?
I'm going to go ahead. You know what? Actually, I'm going to say it's on the lighter side. I'm going to contradict what I just said after 6.9 more sniffs here.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so you get an idea. You're like, okay, and now you take a little sip, see if it matches what you're smelling. Sometimes it's very similar. Sometimes it's totally different. Just a little one. Let it sit on your tongue, and even like swish it around. You can kind of cut it with some saliva. Don't just swallow it back. Like, let it sit, and then swallow. Again, sweet. Is it really bitter? Drying? Does it coat the mouth? Does it go straight to the back of the throat?
I'm going to say dry. I'm going to say a little bit of sweet. I'm going to keep everything that I was thinking originally. Maybe a little bit of vanilla here.
Similar to what you smelled?
Yes. Very similar. Okay.
Again, a lot of heat on the palate, as we call it?
I would say yes. Okay. I don't know. It's probably going to get a little easier as we go on. So I got to think about the...
Yep, your first drink of the day is always kind of like a jarring thing. Especially when you have a clean palate. As you drink, it kind of numbs your tongue a little bit. It numbs the taste buds in your mouth. So as you go on, it gets a little bit less like punch you in the face sort of thing.
Well, I can feel it going all the way down too.
All right, that was going to be my next question. Lingering, is it like a lasting kind of a finish?
It's still on its way.
Okay.
Very nice, but I like that feeling.
All the way down. All right, take one more little sip so you have it in your head.
Finish it?
I mean, if you want, but just one more little sip, just so you kind of have an idea of, and try to remember, like, all right, in my mind, that's what it tasted like, and we'll compare as we go along.
I'm tasting caramel now.
Okay. Any fruit? Fruit can often be common, or no?
I taste no fruit.
Okay. And then there's no wrong answers. You don't have to be like, oh wait, am I doing this right? Dude, it's all right. It's all subjective. But yeah, all right. So keep some of those in mind as we move on later on. But before we do that, so one thing I wanted to talk with you about, because you have such an interesting background, like prior to wrestling. Like a lot of people know, like, all right, Mojo played football. Like that was the thing. But like, there's so much more. And I want the people to know about this. So like, what brought you to both sport, first of all, and you've got a big education and background in like finance and stuff like that too. So it's just like, there's these two very involved things, like business, finance, all that education, and then heavy into sports to the degree where you get into a professional level. Like, what brought you to those worlds that was like, these are the things I'm going to focus on as like a young man?
Well, just watching from a kid, man. I actually wanted to be a wrestler before I was a football player. Watched, Raw and Nitro every week with my dad and my brother, reenacting the moves. You know how it is. We all kind of went through the same thing. But I went the football route just because you can't sign up for WWE in school. So went that. That was kind of the closest thing to being very physical, very active. For me, it was like America's favorite sport. So like all that kind of tied into it. And then, yeah, it just went well, man. I just stuck with it and had some success there, which, took me to a bit of time in the NFL. But then, yeah, when this opportunity with WWE came around, I took that huge pay cut, finally after being a walk-on and a transfer, making it in football to kind of restarting over from scratch on those awesome FCW salaries that we started with, not being able to pay our bills. But yeah, like
and
that,
you know what? I don't mean to cut in here, but that is something. And I'll be honest, I was one of those guys who probably, when you guys first came in, because you and Corbs were kind of part of the same class, and I was there. I'll fully admit, I was one of those guys like, oh, who are these guys coming in from pro sports thinking they're blah blah blah. I probably had a little bit of that, but a lot of people, need to realize, I'm like, these guys took a big pay cut for a champ. Like, this wasn't like they weren't being offered, like, we're going to pay you $1 million to come over here and wrestle in the little warehouse in Tampa. You know what I mean? Like, it was like the rest of us. It was like, hey, here's a couple $100 a week and an opportunity. And we're not going to guarantee you TV time or anything like that. So a lot of people, for people who had those misconceptions, it's not the case.
Bro, I think I was set to make the second year minimum if I would have went back to football, because I only had one accredited season at the time, I think was going to be $405,000. Of course, that's not guaranteed and whatnot. But starting over at FCW, I went from 405 to 39,000. And I remember Canyon telling me and Corbin and that other guy that came in with us, Brandon Carter, they're like, dude, you guys are making big money here. And if everyone finds out what you're making, they're going to be gunning for you, because a lot of these guys have been wrestling way longer and are making, they're at the $30,000 range. They're going to look at you and they're going to try and cheap shot you and come at you. So you guys,
those $9,000.
Bro, what the heck? We were all struggling. It was nuts. But hey, man, hats off to everyone that hung in. Hats off to those that didn't make it, and hats off to those who did, because at that point, you're just fighting for the dream. I mean, none of us could pay our bills. I remember how broke all of us were at that time.
Mm-hmm. No, I remember buying like blue light special ribs, like in bulk as a meal. Like, that's a terrible meal for somebody who's trying to be like a body guy. It's like so fatty and everything. But I'm like, but at the Walmart, like 2 blocks away in Tampa, they would have them like these just slabs of ribs on sale for like $20 for like 10 pounds. And so I'm like, it's meat. And so I would just boil them all up and everything like that, and like bake it, and I did that, and like literally like the old meat and potato. I'd buy like a 20-pound bag of potatoes, and I would just have like ribs and potatoes for like 3-4 weeks in a row. In those early days, this is no PC, no NX, no network, no TV time, no nothing. This is, you were grinding it out to hope to get on a Coco show.
Yeah, exactly. The coconut loop. Oh my goodness.
100%. It's very true. And I mean, we would be remiss without talking about the kind of, I guess I'll call it the debut of Mojo Raleigh with three little words. And I think you might know where I'm going here. Let's get loud. Do you remember Let's Get Loud?
Bro, I did Let's Get Loud so many times. I thought that Jennifer Lopez song was my own entrance music.
I don't know why it wasn't when you started like working the shows. It freaking should have been at that point. Oh my God. For those that don't know, yeah.
If I was out at a bar or club and that song came on, I'd just immediately snap into work mode thinking I was back at work. And then now when I hear that song, I kind of just cringe.
Oh God, you have to. Yeah. So those that don't know, Let's Get Loud was this thing that they did. And I don't know if this was standard like FCW, if that was an Alfred idea or what, but it was like intermission in the show. And they'd usually send, at the time we were still calling the women wrestlers divas, they'd send some of the divas out who weren't booked on the show to throw t-shirts into the crowd while the Jennifer Lopez song Let's Get Loud is playing for like 5 minutes and just get the crowd hyped up before we came back from intermission. And then Mojo, Mr. Hype Man, came in and they were like, shoot, you're doing that. Was that Alfred who kind of was like, you're doing it now?
Dude,
who put you on
remember.
That? Yeah.
I don't even know whose lead it was. I just remember it was always on the damn sheet. And I was opening matches for the longest.
You were the opening match king.
Oh, dude, forever. And the only way I could get out of the opening match, which I always was appreciative, but you remember how many rules were on the thing. No false finishes, nothing on the floor. Like, it was just the most vanilla, basic match of all time. And after a while, I was like, I got to challenge myself before I lose my mind. But the only way I got out of the opener was we would do the Let's Get Loud segment, and I would either do the match before or the match after piggyback it with Let's Get Loud. So I either have the match before, I'd go over and we'd ride the hype into intermission for Let's Get Loud, or we'd go out there and, you know, get the fun going, throw t-shirts or be about to throw the t-shirts, big hype baby face, and then the heel would come out and ruin the fun and take away the shirts, and then we would do the match. It was always one of the two.
That's right. I completely forgot about that. So long. And every little armory in Florida. Oh, my God.
Yes. Every corner pocket, little town of Florida with 50 people total population. Yeah, we ran all of them.
Oh, yeah. Stark, baby. Fond memories of Stark, Florida, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't been, federal prison. One of the federal home of the federal prison, Florida State Prison there. It was such a good time. But on that note, let's move on. Let's move on to sample number 2.
Sample 2. Do I need to rinse out my cup first?
I mean, I think you'll be okay. This is just pretty basic stuff.
Okay.
And again, we're gonna try to keep some of those things in mind from the first one. See how this compares. Same process.
There we go.
So give her a little swish, give her a little sniff. Similar, different. Just going right to it. Similar kind of notes. I mean, is it stronger? Is it lighter? Is it more?
This is going down way more smooth, less of a kick for sure.
Okay.
I'm having trouble placing this.
Hotter? Like, is it spicier at all, or is it smoother? Is it?
No, this one's way smoother, I think.
Okay.
I don't taste as much of the sweet side. I thought I smelled a little more sweet when I gave it a sniff, but now after tasting it,
it doesn't taste quite like it smells in a way.
Yes.
Okay.
The first one was kind of like spot on. This one's a little different, but yeah, this one's just smooth, tasting smooth all the way down, way more than the first.
Okay. Is it bitter at all?
I feel no bitterness.
No bitterness. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. And no fruit on this one either? Really?
Let me give it the
just a little bit, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe some cherry, some grape.
I'm tasting no fruit. I can't identify.
That's quite
I'm
all
trying
right.
to.
No, I know. That's quite all right. I always ask because it's common, but it doesn't mean it's going to come to everybody. And is it lingering or is it going in and out really quick?
In and out. This one's way more smooth than the first.
Okay.
Again, I don't know if this because it's just the second one and I've already had a go at this, but
Could be.
Yeah, this one went down easy. Truth be told, I almost like the rough kick of the first one a little more.
Okay.
Like
All
that
right.
old smooth thing, it's all right.
Yeah.
But sometimes I like to like turn it up a little bit.
Absolutely. I'm kind of, easy drinking is nice in certain situations, but sometimes I want something that's a little bit more that I guess challenges me. It punches a little harder, and it's like, ooh, it's more interesting and layered to me, even though it might be a little bit tougher to drink, a little bit hotter, whatever it is.
That being said, if I'm going to make a drink, I probably am liking number 2 over number 1. Number 1 more of like if I'm drinking neat or if I'm going to rip a shot or something. Number 2, if we're going to start mixing in other flavors, I think it's a little less aggressive where I'll be able to pick up the rest.
Okay. See? These are some good notes. I tell this to everybody. Everyone's like, I don't know if that's right. I'm like, no. Like, people are more intuitive than they think, even in a subject. But this is all sensory. So we're all humans. We all have senses for a reason. Tongue, smell, all this stuff. And they're not wrong. They pick up on things for a reason. So yeah, and you're picking up on I'm looking at the bottles right now, and I'm like, yep, it kind of makes sense. It's kind of interesting. It's really good. So again, keep those in mind before we move on to our second one or our last one later on. But before that, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the legendary tag team of the Hyped Brothers. So I think I've heard the story. I don't know. So where was this given to you guys by anyone? Was this a Bill DeMott idea? Was that was this you guys? Was this Hunter? What was the OG or the first impetus of the idea with you guys?
Oh, okay, this is actually pretty funny. So I was doing my hype run and I was getting booked really strong as that baby face with essentially the scene of NXT, except instead of having the few moves of doom or whatever, I had like the butt moves of doom. It was always like the rear view and the whoopee cushion. I started those when I was trying to be like the party character. And then when I went serious, I don't know if you remember, I was trying so hard to get away from those because I was beating everybody in like 69 seconds, literally, with these ridiculous moves. And yes, I could come out and get people excited because I was hyped up, but I was like, people are not going to get behind me if I'm using a whoopee cushion and a rear view as my only arsenal, It's getting ridiculous. So I remember I was on my babyface run and, the coconut crowds loved me. And then the Full Sail crowd was starting to turn here a little bit. They needed something new. I was going out and I was doing the same exact match every week. And that's what was written for me. Granted, I was brand new, so I was not, still trying to find my footing. But we kind of hit a wall, and then I had my shoulder surgery. So I was on the shelf for a bit. So all that time, I was brainstorming ideas. I was like, look, we need to refocus this character. We need to deliver this hype thing the right way because we're getting away from it. I was kind of looking at my surgery as a good thing. Like, this is the break I needed to come back and really get this thing rocking before I lose the faith of, the pen, essentially. So I come back, and I'm all amped up. I got tons of ideas. And we're at a Full Sail, and I'm getting ready to pitch them to Hunter. And Hunter comes up to me and he goes, I have an idea for you. And I was like, oh, okay, boss got an idea, even better. Anything that comes from him, it's obviously he's going to get behind. He's like, I want to put you in a tag team. And I was like, damn it. Like, I do not want to be a tag team guy. Like, Mojo, the hype thing, this is a solo act here. I just want to do my own thing and let my destiny be in my hands. He's like, well, we're going to pair you with, we're thinking about pairing you with Zack Ryder. And I was like, interesting. Because I knew he wasn't doing much at the time, but I knew his, track record, that he was a fan favorite at one time, but more importantly, he was a main roster guy that had been up there for a long time. So I was like, okay, I don't want to be in a tag team, but if I have to be, why not be with a guy that's been up there for a long time? Hunter was like, we don't see you being here long. We just want to get you guys some reps in NXT and ship you right up to the main roster. You're not an NXT guy. You're not like, like the indie fans and the hardcore fans. You're not their guy. Let's send you up to the main roster where you're more suited. So I was like, oh, this just keeps getting to be better and better. Then he goes, and I'll never forget this. He goes, yeah, he's the bro. You're the hype. We'll just put you guys together, and you'll be like we'll call you the hype bros or something. Not that name. That name sucks, but we'll come up with something better.
Of course.
And it stuck. We never changed it. It was the hype bros, and he himself was like, this name sucks. We'll get you something better. And it just stuck, bro. I was dying. So me and Zach DMs me first. I guess he already had heard about it. So we start messaging about, ideas and whatnot. And they bring Zach down to Full Sail, and we were going to do a taping or whatever. Our debut was me and Zach sitting in the crowd at a takeover, and they put us on Snapchat. Broski and Mojo sitting together, or whatever the hell the caption was. They didn't put it on the Instagram. They didn't put it on the Twitter. They were supposed to tease it on the show. That got cut too. So Zach and I joke all the time that our debut came on the company's defunct Snapchat account. I was like, oh,
I don't even remember that. Holy shit.
I didn't even know they had a Snapchat.
I didn't either.
We were like, dude, this tag team's doomed from the start.
Oh,
what the hell?
God. That's so good. Oh,
so we did our best to make it work. Zach and I had just completely different takes on what we wanted this tag team to be. Just completely different. He wanted us to be more workers. I wanted us to be more entertainers. We were trying to find a way to make it work. But, hey, man, hats off to him, because if you remember, he was doing all the main roster shows, and then on his off days, flying in to do our shows, and he had like no days off at one point.
Yeah, I remember he was truly pulling like double duty. It's not like they gave him 6 months to just do NXT for a while. Nope, you still got to do all those house shows all over and then come down to Florida. Yeah, that was I remember he was going. I remember actually, I cut my honeymoon short to come and wrestle the Hype Bros at Full Sail, and I just remember it's kind of funny because I think I only tell the story because you're here, and it kind of shows the mentality of a lot of us at the time, is we thought everything meant everything. And I had just gotten married, and like I got married on like a Sunday, and tapings were on a Thursday. And we were going to have like a 5-6 day honeymoon in Mexico. And I was like, well, we left Monday morning to go to Mexico, and I'm like, well, I got to be back for a TV taping. So I remember Shaw, my wife, is like, really, can you miss one? And I'm like, no, I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe, we might get be put in a big angle or something like that. And, it's a month of TV. I don't know. And also, so I remember flying home, like we stayed for like 2 days. I fly home Thursday morning, 2 flights, land at like 1 p.m. And I'm calling Bloom. I'm like, I'll be there ASAP. Like run inside, grab my gear bag, get in my car, drive the thing. And like, you're not on. You're at like one. You've got one like 6-minute match with Hype Bros in episode 3, and that's it. And I'm like, I cut my honeymoon short for this. I'm like, and that is when my eyes open. I'm like, you got to have a real life too, bro. Like, yes, this is important and it's passionate, but I'm like, but you work hard for this company. You work hard. Like, it's okay to say like, hey, yeah, I just got married, or like, this is important. Yeah. I need to take a day. So yeah, it was one of those moments.
And I hate to say it, but you already know it too. No, everyone would have faulted you for missing the show, but no one would give you any credit for having cut your freaking honeymoon short. And giving up all that just to come. 6-minute sag, which means the match is probably like 2.5 minutes, because I think y'all had the long entrance back then too. Yeah, so you literally flew back in for like 2 minutes of work, and it's nobody said, "Oh my God, thank you for coming or for making it" or anything like that. Yeah, but if I would have asked for it, it would have been like, okay, I don't know, kid. Like, guess you don't want it. Yeah. Oh God, I don't miss that crap.
No kidding. And there's one other thing, wrestling, before we move on to some of the more current business we have going on. There was one thing that I'm just curious about. So you talked about that you kind of made this transition. I remember watching it, to trying to introduce a little bit more of an edgy character, a little bit more of a serious character too. You were on Raw at the time, and then like balancing that, and then you started doing the thing with like Rawless. Remember, like you remember that,
Yeah.
and like the 24/7 title, and like to me, and forget, it felt really just kind of like juggled and unbalanced with what was going on. Like, what was? I'm just curious as one of the boys, as a talent. I'm like, what was kind of going on in your head and at the time? What was there any kind of plan for that whole situation?
Well, you know how it is. You got like a personality, you got a character, and then eventually, 100% of the time, you're always going to get the conversation. We want to make you a tough guy. We want to make you serious. We want you to drop the whole thing. So I think I wasn't allowed to say the word hype at any point. Like they wanted me to get completely away from that, which if that's what they want, of course we'll do it. But for me, I was like, my hype is really the one thing people know me for. Like that's still to this day. I didn't do the hype thing for, I don't know. I stopped that like 4 or 5 years ago, and still that's the only thing people remember from me. So I was like, we shouldn't get away from that. If you want me to be tough and you want me to be serious, we can still do that under this hype umbrella and just pivot it. But they wanted me to segue out of it. And then of course, once you take away everything that makes me special and unique, now I'm just another tough guy, you know? So there's nothing there to really grasp onto. Eventually we get to the 24/7 stuff. My pitch that they actually loved at first, and I think the fans were really actually excited about, was I was kind of tired of like the 24/7 being a joke title. Like Truth killed it. It was so funny and entertaining, but you can't have Truth doing the same thing every single week with the same antics and the same script and the same 30 guys chasing him around for no reason, you know, like every show. So I was like, let's take the fun away from them and let me make this more like the hardcore title, and we'll get serious with it. And I'll be the first one to not run away with it. I'll try and defend it, you know, and we can just kind of get nasty with it, because the hardcore title is what the fans thought we were bringing back in the first place. So I told that to Vince, and he loved it. He's like, we'll start it next week. So, you know, I try to not pitch Vince too much, so I wasn't one of those guys always in there complaining and, you know, pitching stuff that might not work. But this was one I thought would work, and he went for it. So we started doing that. First person to not run and hide with the title. Cut some promos online that were received well, because I knew I wasn't going to get promo time on TV, but I always did well with my internet promos. And then literally, bro, I think I won the title. And a week later, after this whole campaign and mission to not, you know, need help or run away, they bring in Rawless to watch my back. And I was like, what the hell? Like, this is the opposite of everything we just set up and the fans are actually excited about. And then now he's watching my back. I wasn't mad because I love Rawless. He worked so hard. He was finally getting a shot at the main roster. He's another guy that isn't built for NXT. Like the big athlete guys that didn't work the indies, those guys have a harder time in NXT. That's just the way it is. So they put us together, and we're like, we're gonna make this work. And then we were actually trying to set something up with Gronk at Mania that we were gonna do some matches with before, you know, the world shut down and whatnot, and he went back to football. But that's why we started with Rawless and then had to cut that program short immediately, because I think the plan was for me, Rawless, and Truth to do like a triple threat at Mania, or some sort of like, you know, 24/7 behind the scenes match, or like a hardcore something that was going to be different. But we had to scrap all that on the fly. So part of me was like, man, I shouldn't have pitched this Gronk stuff until after Mania, but we knew we wanted to bring him in for Mania, so that was that. But dude, I mean, part of it was on me, like pitching stuff, but you know how the machine is. You just, every week, bro, you show up and you don't know what the hell you are. At one point, I think I was flip-flopping between babyface and heel like every single week.
That's the worst.
I was like, I don't, you know, like, what do you, I'll do it, I'm told, but like guys don't know what the hell they're looking at. I literally went from being a heel to showing back up on SmackDown after 3 years on Raw, and they're like, just go right back to stay hyped babyface Mojo, just the same day, without any. I literally opened the show that week with Cole to bring in Gronk, and I was right back to babyface Mojo. And I just remember all the tweets was like, what the hell?
What?
Yeah.
But yeah, that sounds about right. Par for the
Yeah.
course, pretty much. Well, and that's actually a good segue because everybody, you kind of know. I can see the picture right behind you from the Andre Battle Royal,
Yeah.
where there was a Gronk cameo as well. So and that's been well documented. Your buddy comedy, I like to call it, with Rob Gronkowski of the New England Patriots. So give me like the elevator pitch. How did you guys become like tight? Like obviously you guys both played football and you met anything, but how did you become like bros? Like how did you become like those kind of tight buddies?
So I actually met his brothers first. When I was playing college ball at Maryland, I played with Dan and Chris Gronk, his two immediate older brothers. There's 5 boys, and they're all lunatics. But Dan, who was one of my closest friends in college, he's like the normal one of the 5. Like, yeah, he can party and get after it, but he's like, the family man, the more chill one, like the more professional one. The other 4 are just like lunatics. Chris is somewhere in between. But I remember in college thinking Dan was kind of crazy because I didn't drink, I didn't party, I didn't go out. Like it was Dean Mutati then. There was no Mojo other than the loud and the hype and the screaming, but there like the party stuff wasn't there yet. So I remember thinking Dan was the crazy one, but then, I became tight with him and the rest of his family. The oldest brother, Gord, and I lived together at one point. Rob and I lived together at one point. And it was just one of those things where, I was best friends with one of the different bros at all times, depending on what phase I was at in my life and them for theirs. So, Dan and Chris got married and have like 69 kids each. And so I don't see them as much. Rob was, when he was in his heyday, partying all crazy, I'd see him all the time. Gord's the one that's still going ham regardless. So, he's one of the ones I talk to the most now. But yeah, their dad's the one that was college roommates with Mike Rotunda at Syracuse.
Oh, that's right.
And that's how I got my way in.
Okay. No
Yes,
kidding.
sir.
It's great. It is crazy how like in some of these some of these industries, wrestling's one of them. Like I imagine sports, maybe football specifically. It's like they're these huge businesses, but like when you're in them, the communities are like so small. Like that degree of separation is so small. Everybody knows somebody who knows somebody, and you run across each other. It's pretty cool.
And it's so true. So true. That's spot on.
So all right. One last like T question, right? So how serious was Rob ever about like signing like a contract about being a wrestler?
So I think he did sign the contract. I'm trying to remember the timeline here. He never wanted to do it full time. To take a guy like that and expect him to make 5 towns a week and travel and drive in between and getting your own rental car and everything that we go through, that's just not going to happen. Like he retired from football and left. I think he had like over 10 million on the table for his last season. He left that behind just to give his body a break. So to bring him in to make like 2% of that, which is still like a good salary, more than most of our guys make, like that's just not going to happen.
Not gonna, yeah.
But what we wanted to do was set up a multiple pay-per-view matches, like a program with him. So SummerSlam was going to be in Boston that year. So we were going to have some fun at Mania. We had a few different plans for that. Yeah, I think it was going to lead into a tag match at SummerSlam and then probably set something up with me and him for after. I think the plan was to be to do one in Saudi Arabia. And I told him, I was like, dude, you're going to get the bug. You're going to do one and you're going to want to do another. I was like, let's do a tag match, get your feet wet. We'll just bring you in for all the fireworks and the bombshells. I'll do, like the leg work here. And then, after you get your feet wet, we'll get you into, like a big one-on-one or something like that, and you see
Get that Bad Bunny run. Get that Bad Bunny run.
Exactly, bro. He did a hell of a dude. Hats off to him. But
hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he got the bug too. So that was the original plan. And then from there, who knows what it goes into. I knew he wasn't going to be full-time, but I knew he also wasn't going to, come in and just do like, all right, I'll give you one Raw leading up to a pay-per-view and then that match and then that's it. He wanted to do more than that. And then he just kept talking about, you know, if I'm going to do this, I want to do this right. I want to fly down to Orlando for like a month, and I want to train every single day. And, you know, like really, I don't, you know, I want to go out there and do this thing. So, you know, that had my respect too, because I know what his rates are. I know how much he gets paid for like an hourly rate. And I've seen him turn down deals in 1 hour that 90% of our roster, you know, the WWE roster makes in a year. So
Yeah.
for him to be willing to do all that, it wasn't for the money at all. He just did it because he was going to do it because he wanted to.
And I mean, hats off. I feel like that's thankfully been like a rising trend in wrestling, TV wrestling and stuff like that. Is the people who do come in for those kind of celebrity spots, whatever outside spots you want to call them, more often than I think in the past. In the last couple of years, people have come in and like, I wanna put in the work, and then like they show that respect at least. I feel like the last couple of big spots like that have done that. So like we as wrestlers, putting it out there, we as wrestlers appreciate that, because I think pro wrestling as an industry is still, it's getting better, but I think it's still kind of sometimes stigmatized by the more mainstream media and public and stuff. So it's nice to see people kind of showing that respect. So cheers to them on that one.
Any friend or celebrity that I know that, of course, gives you the token line of, oh, I used to watch in the Attitude Era and haven't watched since. Like, you know, they might have their opinions on wrestling now. They either might think it's dumb or immature or whatever the hell they think. But any one of those guys, when you take them to a live event and you kind of like tip them off on what the life is really like, you let them see backstage and you put them in a show, it wins them back every single time. They all get rehooked. They, you know, remember why they loved it so much when they're younger, and they actually appreciate it more now for what it is. Because I know we try to like kayfabe the behind the scenes element of it so much, but it's so just interesting, and just you can't help but respect the hell out of it, because everything, you know, we got to go through. I mean, these people love it. I always feel like they kind of need to peel back a couple more layers and show people like a real day in the life, and people will tune back in that haven't in decades.
I think so too. I mean, I jokingly kind of do it a lot. I'm like, kayfabe's dead. Like, in a way, I'm like, people know, like, we're not hiding that this is a show, and we're telling storylines and stuff like that. So I'm like, if we're freely to admit that it's 2021, why go in deep? You know what I mean? Show them what it's really like. Every other sport has these, inside baseball documentaries and everything like that. Yeah, because I think people would really, really get a kick out of it, and like you said, have a different appreciation for it.
I'm telling you, man, I've said it a year into the business, working on Wall Street, playing football, being around athletes and, actors and everything. I've never seen an industry where the talent have a more diverse and wide range of a skill set, in my life than pro wrestlers. Like, just the stuff we got to be entertainers. We got to be able to perform under unique and dynamic changing environments. Got to know how to control a crowd, when to rev them up, when to bring them back down. Memorization, having to memorize these promos on the fly, creating a brand, building a brand, marketing that brand, continuing that brand, evolving that brand, just everything you look for in business. Like, we are trained to do all of it. And if you don't, you're out of there. So to get years in this company, I mean, these just people don't know what goes into it, and they need to.
That's very true. And actually, you kind of before we get to our final sample of the day, you kind of gave my transition for me. Talk about the talent who has all this huge, wide skill set and everything like that. And now, it's for a lot of talent, including you and me and several of the others. I mean, the doors are kind of open now. And now I'm gonna get to something that you've been working on, that you brought to me and several other awesome talent, about taking those opportunities and bringing, getting the most out of those opportunities. You and a couple of great colleagues and everything have helped start something I shared on my Instagram the other day, the Paragon Talent Group. So this is a little bit, I guess, a self plug for both of us. This is you and your guys' company, but I'm very happy to be working with you guys in this. So give the people just a little, again, the elevator pitch kind of thing of how this idea came about and what your guys' goals are with it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So it kind of just started while I was still, with WWE. Businesses were always kind of approaching me and asking me to do social media promotions, appearances for them, speaking engagements. And, while under contract, we could do very, very little of it because, you know, they were exclusive deals pretty much. But anything that I could set up and get away with, if I could ask permission to do, I would. And a lot of times these companies would be like, oh, well, can you, you know, tag in a couple of wrestlers on this deal? You know, I got a budget for a couple of more. So this was something I was kind of already doing. And then after, you know, leaving WWE and seeing a lot of my friends out there, even the locker room doesn't know the gifts that they have. So I wanted to start a company doing essentially what I was already doing and just setting up business for myself and for my friends, because you know how it is, man. When you're in the wrestling bubble, you're focused on wrestling. It kind of, you know, eats up every minute of your day. So you kind of get lost with, you know, what's available to you in the real world. And, you know, just because the business is built so much on humility, you really kind of sacrifice your self-worth in this, you know, trying to put the other guy over and you know, trying not to make waves backstage so you don't get fired, which is a big one. So I was like, you know what, I tagged in a couple of my buddies on this idea, and we started this company to pretty much help everybody with the transition, to get them appearances, to get them gigs. And, you know, we told you the same thing. You know, they're non-exclusive deals. You keep doing what you do. You live your life, and just let us bring you business along the way. And, you know, what, maybe that leads to your next full-on career, and maybe that just leads to certain promotions or appearances here and there that, you know, pay the bills for you short term, or at least cover your fixed expenses or whatnot. But yeah, it's going well, man. And that's pretty much our job now, is just to show the world outside the wrestling bubble what our guys can do and let them do it for them.
And it's really cool. And like, full disclosure, like I've seen a couple of these like talent management companies on social media and stuff, and I've been approached by one or two. And honestly, I've always been very skeptical, because it's like I see kind of what they do, and I scan through their websites and their profile, and it's like, okay, they work with like two people who I actually know, and they're doing the same, you know, same three conventions or whatever, all this thing. I'm like, I don't know if this is the kind of thing, but then like hearing you guys talk about it and coming from a friend in you, I was like, okay, there's some more weight here. And like the idea of like, I'm like, this is so brand new. And when you brought it to me, it was still so brand new. So I'm like, okay, I mean, maybe we'll see if something happens in a year, but like, I'm happy to work with you guys. And then, and like within weeks, I got you and our buddy Steve already like being, hey, there's this possibility. There's this possibility. I'm hearing from this. I'm like, holy shit. Like this is like for real. Like they're hitting the ground and they're working, even though this idea even now is still kind of in the primordial ooze stage and putting things together. So and obviously if you go check out Paragon Talent on Instagram, bunch of cool people with EC3 is part of there. You know, Zach and Chelsea are part of there. You're bringing the family in. Good for you.
It's fun bringing in Zach, I'll tell you
that. Oh man, but yeah, just awesome talent, and more people kind of coming on board. So it's cool to see everybody, and you hit the nail on the head. I think there are so many people, especially in this business, who are so multi-talented, but whether it is a company like WWE or even sometimes on the indies, like you don't think about that because it's all wrestling and it's just matches to match to match to match. And it's like, dude, you realize you can do XYZ as well as wrestling and stuff too. So the idea of opening those gates to people and everything, it's cool. I think it's really cool. I'm very excited for what you guys got going on.
Yeah, we are too, man. It's fun. It's just friends helping friends. That's all it is. Everyone's helping each other and just helping the transition. You know, unfortunately, there aren't like, it's not like the NFL where there's career counselors and recruiters and headhunters that'll find you your next gig and plug you in, and you know, that'll get you health insurance for the rest of your life and all this. I mean, once you're done, you know, in wrestling, that's it. You got nothing. You're not really getting any help there. So it's good to put some people in place that can do just that. And you know, hopefully, hey, we hope it inspires more competition and more people to operate in this space, because, you know, for me, this part wasn't to make a buck. You know, I can do that for myself, but it's more like, you know, seeing your friends and everyone coming up together. So,
yeah, absolutely. Well, on that note, cheers to that. Let's pour our final sample, and then we'll get to the reveal. Number 3. I should have labeled them all 69 or something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like a fool now.
6.9.
Exactly.
That would have been good.
So last time around the fence here.
Alrighty.
All right. Same deal. I know it's been a hot minute, but try to remember some of those notes from before. See where this compares. Give it a little sniff, mouth open.
Oh, wow. Dude, the mouth open makes a big difference. I forgot that part at
Huge.
first.
Just even just a little bit like.
Okay.
Take a little sip. Anything jumping out to you?
The only thing that's jumping out to me is that this is my favorite one so far.
Really? What about it are you liking?
It's almost, I don't know. I'm kind of seeing, it's like kind of the middleman here in between the harsher kick, the smoother side. As far as notes, I don't know. All I can say is I like the way this one goes down.
Okay. Good Lord. See, I knew it. I knew I should have. I'm gonna have to rate this one.
I teed myself up on that one.
Okay, yeah. So like, it's a middle ground as far as like boldness and strength. I mean, is it a little bit sweeter? Is it dry, again, drier, spicier? Again, your notes don't have to be like perfect. If it reminds you of like Captain Crunch cereal, that's a great note too. You know, if it reminds you of cookies, that's good. So it doesn't have to be specific.
Maybe a little caramel. I mean, vanilla and caramel are pretty much the only two notes that I ever pick up. I've never been able to really, pull the fruit out of it. Maybe like fruit flavored beers. Maybe it's a little easier. But as far as like liquor, I've never been good at identifying fruits. But
it's all right. I mean, and then that comes with time and everything like that too. And these, I'm looking at, not particularly known for fruity notes, but I was just kind of curious to see what you would get. But is this one like long and lingering, or is this quick in and out as far as like
this one felt quicker for sure?
Okay,
it's almost like a little bit more of like that kick on the way down, but it kind of resolves pretty fast.
Okay, fair enough.
So it's not like you're, again, the first one was a little bit more like ripping a shot at the bar. You're going to feel that thing all the way down, and you're going to feel it for a little bit lingering. Second one was quite the opposite, and then this one's the middle ground right here.
Okay, so then what? All right, we've come to what would be your kind of rankings if you were forced to choose. And I guess we'll base you, because you made a good point about like this one would be good for like a cocktail or something, which is very valid. But let's rate them all based on if I had to sip, an ounce of them neat, at home, what would be 1, 2, and 3 for you?
3, 1, 2.
3, 1, 2. Okay.
Yeah, so number 3 was my favorite. Number 1 would be second, because again, if I'm gonna drink whiskey and bourbon, I might actually need you to explain the difference to me on those two. But 1, I want that kick, especially if I'm drinking it neat. And then 2 was, there was nothing wrong with 2. I still enjoyed 2, but it was definitely third of the 3.
Okay, fair enough. And really quick, bourbon and whiskey. So bourbon is whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing, and a lot of people who are watching this are kind of nerds like me, and they've heard this line a million times. All bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon. Mm-hmm. Make sense? Yes. So like it's a specific type of whiskey. So like think of it in terms of a professional wrestler, right? Is a type of wrestler, but not all wrestlers on planet are pro wrestlers. Some are Greco-Roman, some are freestyle, some are like ancient African, style, some weird style we've never heard of, right? But they're all wrestlers, but this is just a specific kind. So bourbon is a uniquely American whiskey. It actually in 1964 was designated by Congress as a distinct product of the United States. So nobody else outside of the US can call their product bourbon, or we sue their ass.
Still to this day?
To this day, yeah.
Wow.
It's like scotches. So scotch is, I think, it's uniquely Scottish. Nobody else can call their whiskey scotch unless it's made in Scotland. They have to call it like single malt whiskey or blended whiskey or whatever like that. But only Scotland can call it scotch. Only America can call it bourbon.
Interesting.
So there's rules on what ingredients and, the proof points and, what kind of barrels it has to be aged in. There's a lot of very specific rules.
Is one stronger than the other? Is it bourbon stronger maybe, or?
Nope. Proof is up to that. The only thing that is required for bourbon is it has to go into the bottle at 80 proof at least, which is pretty standard for any spirit. anything to be considered a liquor is pretty much 80 proof. Vodka, gin, anything is pretty much 80 proof. If it's lower than that, it's a liqueur, generally speaking. So, but I've had bourbon that's 80 proof, and I've had bourbon that's 140 proof. And so it can be, you can be kind of anything.
We really do need to set you up a big event here to host something like a big refined party, which is not usually how I party, but would be very educational and very fun for sure. We got to get this in the books.
And that's one thing I like to do with this. I'm like, yes, I nerd out about this, and I like explaining all these weird kind of cool details, but then I'm like, but we don't have to sit here like a classroom either. It's still a fun thing to drink, and we can still have a party and do stuff too. So it's like, it really is about, I like to have the best of both worlds.
Hell yeah.
But
you're giving me ideas for Paragon right now.
Oh, bro. Let's do it, baby. Let's do it. But getting to the reveal, I'll go backwards. So I'll start with your number 3.
Finish this one.
Sure. I'll start with your number 3, and we'll work our way up to your favorite. And so my theme of the day with you was, I couldn't quite think. I'm like, what's something that would be kind of fun for Mojo? And so my theme was, it's Dickel Day. Because Dickel is a funny name, and it sounds like a name for penis, and 69, blah blah blah, funny jokes, right?
This is going to be the hashtag for when we post this on social media.
Hashtag Dickel Day. Yes. So Dickel, George Dickel, you may have seen, is a big whiskey company. They're from Tennessee, but they make bourbon, they make they make Tennessee whiskey, stuff like that. But in addition to making their own products, they're also very well known for, they bulk sell to other companies. So like if I wanted to start my own brand, I could go to them and buy 5,000 barrels and make my own bottle, blah, 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 blah. And so they do that a lot. And so people in the whiskey community have come to try to like, ooh, is this a Dickel whiskey? Is this from this? But so they do a lot of that stuff. So all of these are produced by George Dickel Distillery. But they're 3 different brands of whiskey. So it kind of shows what you can do when you bottle it different ways or blend it different ways, as opposed to just the same way as the original person. So your third place pick was directly from George Dickel. It was George Dickel, Bottled and Bond. This is actually the oldest one we have here. This is a 13-year Bottled and Bond bourbon whiskey.
Wow.
And this won Whiskey Advocate's Whiskey of the Year, I think 2 years ago. Caused a lot of controversy because like it's a solid bottle, but a lot of like whiskey aficionados were like, that bottle, really? Because it was like $35. It was like a budget bottle, but they released which is pretty unheard of for a well-aged whiskey in the modern market. Normally, if it's over 10 years, you're probably going to pay over $100 for bourbon in this country. But they released it because they just have they have such a large stockpile, they can afford to release it at like $40.
Wow.
So, yeah, this is 100 proof, so this is the lowest proof of all 3, which is probably why you thought it was the smoothest and the easiest to drink. So it makes sense. So you picked up on that. So that's what I'm saying. See, like your senses don't lie to you. You may not have every little like note in there, but your senses don't lie to you. So this was the lowest proof, probably the easiest to drink, and that long aging helps mellow out some of those harsher notes. So it does taste a little bit maybe sweeter or smoother because it spent so many years in a barrel, as opposed to something that's like 2 years in a barrel, which is still pretty harsh. So that was your number 3. Number 2, which was your Rip It bourbon or whiskey, is Joseph Magnus. So this is Joseph Magnus. This is a single barrel pick from a store here in Chicago, which means a store literally went to the distillery and they picked one individual barrel and then bottled it and sold it exclusively in their store. This is a company out of DC, your hometown area.
Nice.
They're based out of there, but they're making their own, but they source a lot of their stuff from this George Dickel company. This one was the highest proof. So there you go. When you like, it was a little harsher, but it was more of a rip it kind of throw a hot one back. This is the highest proof one. This is 58.53% alcohol. So it's like 116 proof, something like that. So this is 16 proof points higher than this one.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, this is one individual barrel, and I don't know if they took the barrel and aged it anymore in DC or if they just kind of bought it from Tennessee and bottled it. But yeah, so this is uncut cask strength, DC company, Tennessee whiskey, Chicago single barrel.
Love it.
So it's
Love
funny
it.
the way it can travel.
I love that the hometown bottle was the party bottle.
And your favorite, again, also sourced from George Dickel, but bottled by Smooth Ambler Old Scout. Now, this is not too far away from Europe. This is Virginia. I believe West Virginia. This is West Virginia based. And Smooth Ambler, they've done a lot of stuff. They buy a lot of their whiskey from Indiana and a lot of it from Tennessee. This one is my favorite too, out of all three of these. So because I generally am not a huge fan of this distillery's kind of profile. Like this, I didn't love this one that much, for example. But this one, I'm like, it's funny. It's the same product. It's the same ingredients. It's made by the same people. But this is also an individual barrel, single barrel select there. This one is also 13 years old, just like the other one. But this is cask strength. This is uncut. This is 54% alcohol, so about 108 proof. But to me, I'm just like, I think they do some of the aging in West Virginia.
Oh, okay.
So they get the barrel from Tennessee. It probably aged, for most of the time there, but then they finish it up in West Virginia and then bottled it. And this was selected by, I believe this was also selected by a store here in Chicago. But it just kind of shows how different, in similar profiles, but how different, these are two individual barrels of the exact same thing. And they're different proof points. They have different profiles, different, ways of being, harsher, smoother, mellower, sweeter, more bitter, all that stuff. And then even compared to the OG product, it's very different. So that was Dickel Day for Mr. 69 Mojo. That was for you.
I loved it, man. This is great. This is fun. We need to do like a Tennessee trip together, man.
Dude, we get Tennessee. I got peeps in Kentucky too. Starting to make some Indiana connections as well. But the whiskey world is all growing. It's all over. It's all over the country now. So there's so much going on in that. But before we go, as always, there's an exclusive opportunity for our Patreon members, patreon.com/wrestlingwithwhiskey, to ask all of our podcasts some rapid fire questions. We got 2 or 3 here from our members who wanted to know. And 2 out of the 3 questions here are about Powerpuff Girls, which I didn't know, I guess is a thing you're into or you make jokes about, or I don't know. But I immediately got hit with 2 questions about the Powerpuff Girls. So I didn't even know that was a thing you were into. So I'll go to that. Dresden Nova wanted to know, who's the best Powerpuff Girls villain? Him, Fuzzy Lumpkin, or your namesake?
Well, it's got to be my namesake. Mojo Jojo is the villain in the Powerpuff Girls, and he's like this green monkey with a turban, and he goes flying around. I don't know.
I think I've seen that image around. Okay, that's okay.
Yes, exactly.
So is that where you got the name idea?
Hell no. Rob Naylor came up with the Mojo name, actually.
Oh, Naylor.
But yeah, Mojo Jojo. I actually dressed up like him for Halloween last year.
Really?
That was my costume, yeah. Nobody got it because it was a crappy costume. I needed to do more with it for sure.
Fair enough. So piggybacking off that, our friend Joe, screen name Almighty Scorpion, wanted to know how many times has somebody called you Mojo Jojo?
Probably every day at some point. I get that constantly.
Is it from strangers or from friends who like to joke with you about it?
A lot of friends, anyone really that comes across that knows anything about Powerpuff Girls or at least seen the character. Yeah, I get Mojo Jojo every day at some point from somebody one way or another. Or tweets. I get memes about it frequently. Sure.
So then how did that start? Have you just always been a fan of the show, or was it kind of like a rib that just grew, or what? Where did that come from?
I actually have never watched the show before. I don't know a thing about it. I just know that it was a character on there. That was the guy's name,
and so people just kept mentioning. Yeah, people kept mentioning it to you.
Yeah, that was it. I should probably check it out and watch a clip at some point, I guess.
Maybe just watch the first episode at least, so you have that. Let me see, make sure there's not one. Oh, Ghost Napa, Victor Nunez would like to know, if you were to make a Stay Hyped cocktail, what would be in it as far as ingredients, do you think?
Oh man, See, if it was a Mojo cocktail, maybe something a little, like I like old fashions. We talked about that. So maybe some sort of a Mojo take on an old fashioned. But if we're talking about a stay hype drink, this has just got to be just the most powerful knock you on your ass shot of all time. Just giving you all the energy. I don't drink energy drinks personally, but it would probably need to be something to amp everybody up. Maybe that's without energy drinks. Maybe we put like a shot of Celsius in there or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's got to be something to get the party started, and very strong at that. Like maybe one or two and you're good for the night.
Triple, 3 parts Red Bull, 1 part vodka, and a lime. How about that, folks?
Exactly.
And finally, Eric Smith want to know, after seeing the Snake Eyes trailer, which we'll have you shout that out right at the end. After seeing the Snake Eyes trailer, he goes, I gotta know, would you rather be in a Marvel or DC movie? And no, you can't say both.
Oh, that's a good point, saying both. Snake Eyes was awesome. Had a ton filming that. That actually comes out here soon, July 23rd. And it'll be in theaters, thankfully. I was hoping it wasn't.
Yes, finally, right?
I'm a big movie guy, so going to the theaters, I was really hoping that was going to be an option available. And of course, now it is. Going to be incredible. That being said, if I had to pick between a Marvel or a DC character, I got to say Marvel, man. I loved how the Marvel movies came across. That's probably the more popular answer. I would love to do either, and whatever role is more perfect for me, I'm all for it. But man, those Marvel movies were something special. Loved Iron Man. He was my favorite. I didn't realize until Endgame how much Captain America meant to me. I was pretty bummed out to see him leaving the MCU, but yeah, man, I like their take on it. The DC movies are a little darker, which I certainly tried to get there when I was doing my little mirror gimmick with the face paint, but otherwise, Bubbly Mojo is a little bit more on the Marvel side of things. So,
okay.
You want babyface Mojo or heel Mojo? It's going to give you different answers.
Fair enough. Absolutely. Well, Moj, thank you very much for being here, man. This is a blast. It's always a fun time hanging with Dean here. So before we go, typical podcast mumbo jumbo. We talked a little bit about Paragon and stuff like that, but what do you got going on? What's some plans you got going forward, whether it's with the group or on your own? And, where can people find you? All that good stuff.
Yeah, man, just been having a lot of fun. Like we talked about, doing everything. Of course, we talked about Snake Eyes coming out here shortly. That's going to be big. I definitely want to do more in that space. And I'm actually working on setting up some more things in that world right now that should be pretty exciting. Dude, I've been hosting TMZ's, co-hosting, I'm sorry.
That's right,
TMZ Sports recently, which has been just so fun. I've been having a blast with that. Those guys are great. Been really fortunate to do some work with them over the years in the past. So now that I'm a free man, I can actually, work with them, not, just doing appearances here and there. That's been cool. Of course, we talked about Paragon already. And yeah, man, again, I've actually had more time to keep my eyes on the stock market and do some pretty exciting things there, which has been so fun as well when you're, making money for nothing essentially. Bro, it's been busy. Like I said, we've been doing a ton. So, of course, you can follow along at Mojo on Instagram or at Mojo Mutati on Twitter. And yeah, man, track what's next. There's a lot of exciting stuff coming that, maybe might be unconventional to the wrestling world or things you might not have thought I had a vested interest in, but now you'll find out.
Hell yes. Well, you heard it here, folks. Remember, the world is opening up. Your possibilities are opening up. As far as the whiskey fans, remember, just because it comes from one place doesn't mean there aren't unlimited possibilities with how it can taste and how you can experience it, just like life. Someone who knows that very well is Mojo himself. So on behalf of myself and Mojo, thank you very much, everybody, for being here, for watching, for tuning in. And we will see you absolutely. Oh, wait, all right, I didn't do it. No. I forgot my own outro. So always be trying those things, always be opening more doors, and always, always, always be wrestling with whiskey. Until the next one, cheers, everybody, and we'll see you later.
Cheers, my dears.